We kicked our child out for refusing to share their inheritance with their entitled brother, told them family comes first, and cut them off. Now, years later, we're begging for help after our golden child cheated on his rich fiancé, lost everything, and our lives are falling apart. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we are. I'm 62, my husband Howard is 64, and we have 2 children, Ryan, 37, and Alex, 34. I'll say this up front because people love to jump to conclusions. We were not neglectful parents. We raised our kids with structure, values, and a strong belief in family unity. We taught them that you don't abandon your own just because things get uncomfortable or inconvenient. That belief is at the center of this entire situation, and I'm honestly stunned at how many people seem to think that principle somehow makes us villains. Ryan has always needed more support. That's not favoritism. It's reality. He struggled in school despite tutoring, had impulse control issues, and never managed money well. He's not a bad person, but he's always needed guidance and a safety net. Alex, on the other hand, was the opposite. Quiet, self-contained, academically strong, and fiercely independent. Alex never asked for help, never seemed to need it, and honestly made it clear from a young age that they didn't want to rely on us. So yes, we focused more on Ryan, not because we loved Alex less, but because Ryan needed more. I'm tired of people pretending equal parenting means identical treatment, regardless of circumstance. That's not how real families work. Everything changed when Alex was in their early 20s. A maternal grandparent, someone Alex was close to, but who had always been distant from the rest of the family, passed away and left Alex a substantial inheritance. Not a small amount, enough to buy property, invest, and live very comfortably if managed correctly. The will was explicit. It went to Alex alone. From the moment we found out, the imbalance in our family became impossible to ignore. Alex suddenly had options Ryan never did: financial freedom, security, choices. Meanwhile, Ryan was already struggling with credit card debt and bouncing between jobs, trying to keep up with a lifestyle he couldn't afford. Watching one child thrive financially while the other floundered wasn't just uncomfortable, it felt fundamentally unfair. Before anyone accuses us of wanting Alex's money, that's not what this was about. It was about family responsibility, about not letting money create hierarchy between siblings. We didn't believe Alex owed Ryan everything, but we did believe Alex had an obligation to help balance the scales. Family comes first. That's what we raised them to believe. We started gently. Conversations at dinner, suggestions. You don't need all of that right now. Ryan's struggling. Wouldn't it be nice to help him get back on his feet? Alex listened politely but never committed to anything. The more we pressed, the colder Alex became. Everything turned transactional. Legal language. Boundaries. Conditions. It was like talking to a lawyer, not our child. Eventually, we sat everyone down. A family meeting. No yelling, no dramatics, just honesty. We told Alex directly that hoarding that kind of wealth while their brother struggled wasn't how we raised them. We said money shouldn't matter more than blood. We proposed reasonable options: a lump sum to help Ryan clear his debt, or ongoing support until he stabilized, or even a loan with no paperwork. Ryan was there. He didn't beg, but he didn't hide his expectation either. Alex refused, calmly, firmly, no negotiation. They said the inheritance came with conditions from the grandparent, that Ryan's financial problems weren't their responsibility, that they wouldn't be guilted into fixing someone else's life. No anger, no apology, just a wall. I won't pretend I handled that well. I was furious, not because of the money, but because of what the refusal represented. Alex wasn't just saying no, they were rejecting the values we raised them with, choosing individual comfort over family responsibility. That felt like a betrayal. So yes, we gave an ultimatum. If Alex wanted to live as an island, they could do it somewhere else. We told them to leave our home and take space until they were willing to reconsider their priorities. I said very clearly, we can't support this kind of selfishness. Alex packed quietly and left. No yelling, no tears, just distance. After that, contact stopped. We didn't chase them. That wasn't punishment, it was principle. We told extended family the truth as we saw it, that Alex chose money over family and abandoned their brother when he needed help. Ryan was framed as the victim because, frankly, he was. Alex was labeled greedy and ungrateful, And at the time, we believed that was accurate. Years passed. I assumed Alex would regret it, that they'd realize how hollow independence is without family. I thought they'd come back eventually. They didn't, and we didn't reach out either. Pride? Maybe, but also consistency. We believed bending would undermine everything we stood for. Then Ryan's life appeared to turn around. He got engaged to Sabrina, a woman from a wealthy, influential family. Suddenly, doors opened. He had access to opportunities we could never provide. For the first time in years, I felt relief. Validation. Maybe Alex was wrong. Maybe everything worked out the way it was supposed to. And then, it collapsed. Ryan cheated, not once, multiple times. Sabrina found out. The engagement ended immediately. Financial support disappeared overnight. Shared leases, business ventures, connections, all gone. Ryan came home broke, unemployed, and furious at the world. Around the same time, Howard's health declined. Medical bills started piling up. Our retirement plans unraveled faster than we ever imagined. We are now facing downsizing, possibly selling our home, and making choices no one our age wants to face. This isn't a sob story, it's reality. That's when we decided to reach out to Alex. I won't pretend it was easy. I told myself it was a family emergency, not a handout. Alex had built a successful, comfortable life. They had resources. We didn't ask out of entitlement. We asked because family helps family. That's what we taught. I didn't offer an apology because, frankly, I didn't believe we were wrong. I expected reconciliation, not judgment. Alex's response was controlled, distant. They referenced the ultimatum we gave years ago and said our position hadn't changed, so neither had theirs. They refused financial help outright. No negotiation, no anger, just a boundary. I was stunned. This wasn't about money anymore. It was punishment. Years of silence, and now when we're the ones struggling, Alex decides to enforce consequences? I can't wrap my head around how permanent this feels. We're being punished forever for enforcing family values, for expecting one child, who clearly has more, to help the family unit survive. I don't deny mistakes were made, but I don't believe they justify this level of abandonment. So, I'm asking honestly, is it really wrong to expect one child to help when they clearly have more? Or has money completely replaced loyalty in families now? Update 1. I didn't expect the response to my original post to be what it was. I'm not exaggerating when I say the backlash was immediate and overwhelming. I knew people would disagree, but I didn't anticipate how quickly the narrative would flip, not just online, but in our real lives. Within days of posting, things I thought were private, settled, and long past started resurfacing in ways I couldn't control. The first shift came from extended family. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions. Aunts who had quietly nodded along when Alex left years ago were now asking pointed questions. Someone shared my post in a family group chat I didn't even know still existed, and once it started circulating, old messages and emails came back into the light. Conversations Howard and I had framed as firm but loving were now being reread with a very different tone. And to my surprise and anger, most of them sided with Alex. They said things like, "You didn't ask, you demanded," and "you punished the wrong child." One cousin outright told me that Ryan was never held accountable for anything, and that Alex had always been treated like an outsider the moment they stopped needing help. That accusation stung because it felt deeply unfair. We didn't neglect Alex, we just didn't hover over them the way we did with Ryan, because they didn't need it. But suddenly, people were reframing that as abandonment. Even worse was the shift in how people spoke about Ryan. The same relatives who had once called him sensitive and misunderstood were now openly saying he'd been enabled. That word kept coming up, enabled, as if we had deliberately sabotaged him. I wanted to scream every time I heard it. Parents don't enable their children by trying to help them succeed. They support them. The community fallout extended beyond family. Sabrina's name started coming up again, not directly from her, but from mutual acquaintances. Word got around about why the engagement ended, and it wasn't flattering to Ryan. Stories circulated about repeated cheating, lying, and entitlement. I won't pretend that didn't hurt, but what hurt more was how quickly people decided that his failure was somehow our fault. Ryan, meanwhile, was unraveling. He lashed out constantly, at us, at Alex, at Sabrina, at the world. One moment, he'd be furious at Alex for hoarding money. The next, he'd accuse Howard and me of setting him up to fail by never pushing him hard enough. He refused to take responsibility for the engagement falling apart, insisting Sabrina was controlling and overreacting. When I suggested therapy, or at least some structure, he snapped that he didn't need fixing. He needed resources, and he expected those resources to come from us. The financial demands escalated quickly. First, it was small things, covering his phone bill, helping with groceries, paying off a credit card, just to breathe. Then it became bigger. Rent assistance, car repairs, requests that felt less like asks and more like assumptions. Every time we hesitated, he reminded us that family helps family. The same phrase we had once used with Alex was now being thrown back at us. Our own financial situation deteriorated faster than I want to admit. Howard's medical bills didn't slow down, and insurance covered less than we were led to believe. Retirement accounts we'd planned to stretch for decades were suddenly being drained just to keep up. We missed a mortgage payment for the first time in our lives. That shook me more than anything else. The idea of losing the home we raised our children in felt unreal, almost offensive, like the universe had made a clerical error. And through all of this, Alex remained silent, blocked on everything. No response to calls, emails, or letters. At one point, a relative suggested Alex had spoken to a lawyer. I don't know if that's true, but the idea alone made my stomach drop. It felt excessive, punitive, like Alex was turning this into something legal instead of personal. Out of sheer frustration, I tried to defend our position more publicly. I corrected relatives. I explained, again, that Alex wasn't being asked to fund a lifestyle, just to help stabilize the family. I said Ryan was set up to fail by circumstances, not parenting. I said Alex was weaponizing money to punish us for standing our ground years ago. Instead of calming things down, it made everything worse. People started openly accusing us of favoritism, not subtly, directly. You chose Ryan every time. You punished Alex for being stable. You treated inheritance like a family resource only when it benefited you. Hearing those words spoken out loud, repeatedly, by different people, started to crack something I didn't realize was fragile. For the first time, I replayed the moment we gave Alex the ultimatum without justifying it. I remembered how calm they were, how they didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't threaten. They just accepted it. At the time, I saw that as coldness. Now I'm not so sure. I'm starting to wonder if Alex had already learned something we hadn't, that pushing back wasn't safe, and compliance was the only way to stay connected. That realization doesn't sit well with me. I still believe family should help family. I still believe Alex could choose compassion right now and end a lot of suffering. But I can't ignore the pattern anymore. Ryan was never required to grow because we were always there to catch him. Alex grew precisely because no one ever did. I'm not ready to say we were wrong, but I am forced to admit that what we called unity may have trained one child to survive and the other to expect rescue. I thought we were teaching family values. Now I'm wondering who we actually taught how to live without us. Final update. I've waited longer than I intended to write this. Part of that was exhaustion, real, physical exhaustion, and part of it was stubbornness. I didn't want to come back here just to confirm what so many of you said was inevitable. I also didn't want to sound like I was groveling, because despite everything, I still believe context matters. But enough has happened that pretending things are in flux would be dishonest. So this is the final update. There isn't a reconciliation arc. There isn't a surprise turnaround. There's just the reality we're living in now. After my last update, things continued to deteriorate, slowly and then all at once. The financial pressure became constant background noise. Phone calls from creditors, letters we stopped opening right away, conversations between Howard and me that ended in silence because neither of us had a solution the other didn't already know. We downsized expenses everywhere we could. Subscriptions gone, trips canceled. We sold things I never thought we'd sell, not because they were valuable, but because they were easy to part with. None of it made a meaningful dent. Ryan remained in the house, and that situation deserves its own paragraph because it became impossible to ignore the pattern staring us in the face. He still didn't have steady work. He claimed he was networking, figuring things out, waiting for the right opportunity. But days blurred into weeks. Any suggestion of accountability, budgeting, deadlines, expectations was met with anger or deflection. He alternated between blaming Sabrina, blaming Alex, and blaming us, rarely himself. And for the first time, I didn't rush to correct him when he blamed us. That alone would have been unthinkable a few years ago. The final attempt to reach Alex came after a particularly bad medical appointment for Howard. Nothing dramatic or immediate, but sobering. The kind of appointment that forces you to think in terms of years instead of decades. I sat with that information for days, turning it over in my head, and eventually convinced myself that reaching out one more time wasn't manipulation, it was honesty, or at least that's how I framed it. I wrote a long message, longer than I'd intended. I didn't ask for money outright, I didn't demand anything, but I did mention our age, Howard's health, the strain we were under. I said I regretted how things ended. Not that we were wrong exactly, but that the outcome had been harsher than anyone expected. I said family fractures shouldn't be permanent. I said we missed them. What I did not do, if I'm being precise, was offer the kind of apology people here kept insisting on. I didn't say, we were wrong. I didn't say, we failed you. I still believe we acted on principles we thought were right at the time. I wasn't going to rewrite history just to soften it. Alex responded 3 days later. The message was polite, measured, shorter than mine by a wide margin. There was no anger in it, which somehow made it worse. They said they were sorry to hear about Howard's health. They said they hoped we found stability. Then they drew a line so clean it felt surgical. They would not be offering financial support. They would not be re-entering the family dynamic. They were not open to rebuilding a relationship that, in their words, had been conditional long before it was severed. They reminded me, without cruelty, just fact, that when they were told to choose between money and family, we made sure there was no version of family available to them if they chose differently. That was the part I couldn't argue with, even internally. They ended by saying they wished us well, but that distance was not punishment, it was protection, and that they hoped we could eventually understand the difference. That was it. No follow-up, no opening for negotiation, and no, before anyone asks, there was no mention of Ryan at all. Not a word. I sat with that message longer than I'd like to admit. I reread it looking for softness, for hesitation, for something I could respond to that wouldn't feel like pushing against a locked door. There wasn't anything. Alex wasn't angry. They were done. Life since then has not improved. Ryan's situation has continued to spiral. He still talks about bouncing back, but there's no plan behind it. He still expects help, but now there's resentment mixed in, because the help doesn't go far enough. The irony isn't lost on me. For years we insisted Alex should share because family comes first. Now Ryan believes family means never saying no to him. And that belief didn't come from nowhere. For the first time, I can say this plainly, the inheritance was never the real issue. It just exposed what was already there. We told ourselves we were being fair by giving more to the child who needed more, without asking why one child always needed more and the other never asked for anything. We framed Alex's independence as emotional distance because it made us uncomfortable. We framed Ryan's dependence as vulnerability because it made us feel needed. Family first was a rule, but it was applied selectively. Alex was expected to sacrifice for the family. Ryan was protected from sacrifice by the family. That distinction mattered, even if we refused to see it at the time. I'm not going to pretend I've arrived at some peaceful acceptance. I haven't. There's bitterness in this realization, and grief, and a kind of clarity that doesn't come with relief. I still think Alex could help. I still think it wouldn't destroy their life to do so. Those thoughts don't disappear just because you understand where you went wrong. But I also understand now why they won't. There will be no reconciliation. Alex is not coming back. Not for money, not for closure, not for obligation. And if I'm honest, they haven't been part of our daily lives for years anyway. We just didn't want to admit that the separation was permanent. So this is where it ends. We are dealing with the consequences of the choices we made, just as we once insisted our children should. Ryan is still here, Alex is not, and no amount of reframing turns that into anything other than what it is. I used to believe loyalty was proven by sacrifice. Now I see that sometimes loyalty is proven by walking away from a system that only ever asked and never protected.